What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and this week I've been driving the 2023 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. Up front is a 4.0 liter V6, and down below is a 5-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because I've been really enjoying this 4Runner over the last several days. I've had it over Memorial Day weekend. I asked Toyota specifically for this vehicle to help my friend move, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I'm not a Toyota fanboy. I wouldn't consider myself a Toyota fanboy, and yet this car seems to have turned the tide a little bit on that argument. Again, we'll talk about that later on in the video. But if you would like to share your vehicle with me, you can head on over to my website, zachpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 4-liter V6 under the hood. Well, right off the bat, it's not amazing. It is pretty sluggish. Getting on the highway, you got to give it the full beans in order to get up to speed. However, you can sleep soundly at night knowing that your 4-liter V6 is going to be very reliable. 270 horsepower isn't amazing, but it's going to go the distance. These engines have gone hundreds of thousands of miles without really any major issues, and that's the big drawing point towards the 4Runner. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 5-speed automatic. This was cool in 2005, but the 5-speed is really outdated, and I think that's what also makes the 4Runner feel rather sluggish. There were several times where I would floor it to accelerate with traffic, or on an on-ramp, or just to get up to speed, and it wouldn't kick down. It would just keep me in 3rd or 4th gear, and so it would go... So I think the 5-speed auto is partially to blame with the sluggishness as well. Last but not least, of course, the 4Runner is 4-wheel drive, and we'll talk about how to select that a little bit later on. So how does it feel to actually drive the Toyota 4Runner? Well, it is a body-on-frame vehicle, so with that, you tend to get a lot more road feel. This is set up with more heavy-duty suspension. It's a big vehicle, and so driving on the highway, when you hit a pothole, it takes it quite personally. Now, of course, that is a trade-off because this has great off-road prowess, but it's not going to be the most comfortable ride in the world, although it does have a decent amount of body roll, so it sometimes feels cushy in the corners, but that's just because you're about to tip over. Real-world fuel economy, over the 322.9 miles I've driven this vehicle, I've averaged 15.7 miles to the gallon. Not what I would consider stellar, but not awful. I mean, this is a giant vehicle, and that is better fuel economy than the hybrid Sequoia that I had. So something to note there. At least it's not the complete bottom of the barrel. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges and a screen. Off to the left, I have my tachometer and coolant temperature, and off to the right, I have my fuel and speedometer. I also do have a little screen in the center giving me some information that I can scroll around with. Toyota has done this for quite a while, and I've seen this screen in many of their other products, and I quite like it, although it is getting towards that dated feeling. On the steering wheel, on the left, I do have my volume and skip track button, which is flipped from what I'm used to. Normally, I feel like skip track should be left-right, volume should be up-down, but Toyota said, nope, we're doing it the other way, and so I guess I have to respect that. Then I do have my mode and hold button as well as my phone options, and off to the right I have my selector dial for that center screen as well as my pages, my pre-collision warning, and lane keep assist. The overall look and feel of the steering wheel is pretty good. I do like that it has a giant handle down at the bottom for highway cruising. This is kind of where I naturally rest my hand, and I've really enjoyed that. Off to the left I do have a climate control vent, power mirrors, gauge dimmer switches, automatic headlights, my view button, so this will toggle not only a front but a 360 camera, my outlet on and off, and my heated windshield wipers. Moving out of the door, we have the child locks, lock and unlock, and power windows. And moving up into the center, I do have crawl mode off to the left, so I can set a speed for crawl mode, as well as off to the right, I have several different drive modes I can select from for off-road, which is really, really nice to see. I don't have any personal experience using this. I live in a suburban town. There's no real places to off-road. I also have my traction control off, A-track, rear locking differential, 3 different garage door openers, my moonroof options to open that, and then I have the lights, which are still incandescent, which Toyota, if you want to make this thing just feel a touch more modern, LEDs would have been nice. Moving down to the dash, we do have a digital clock, 2 climate control vents with the hazard switch, and then we have the infotainment system. There's some things I like, some things I don't like. First of all, it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, although it is wired, but it's really simple to use. Touchscreen, all the buttons are big enough, not really that hard. I also like the JBL system. It doesn't have very good bass, but in terms of music clarity, it's pretty decent for a vehicle like this. What I don't like is the backup camera, and as you saw with the 360 camera, the cameras themselves are very poor quality for the standards of a 2023 vehicle. In 2006, this would have been great to have. But unfortunately, it's no longer 2006. It's 2023, and Toyota really needs to step up their game when it comes to their camera quality. I've said this in numerous of their vehicles. I hope that changes soon. Down below, we do have the climate controls. We have our dual zone climate, which is really nice to see. I love the tactile feedback of the knobs. I like all the buttons. Plain, simple, easy to use. What bothers me, and was pointed out by my girlfriend, and I really wish she hadn't, the temperature has a decimal point, of which will never change away from 0. Why? Why, Toyota? Why does it have a decimal point? I tried to put it to Celsius, and that didn't really make a difference. So why? It just seems so weird. To the left of the climate controls, I do have a heated steering wheel, which is a surprisingly nice feature for the TRD Pro. Down below that, I do have a little cubby, a USB-A, which is interesting. We'll talk about that with the back seats getting USB-C, and a 12-volt outlet, some storage space, and then we move on to the center console. We do have a cup holder up to the left and our 4-wheel drive shifter off to the right. I like having that actual physical lever for 4-wheel drive. Makes me feel like I'm doing something. Then we do have the shifter itself. This is the standard jigsaw shifter that Toyota's been using since the dawn of time. It works, although with the wired CarPlay, there were several times that my iPhone cord actually got stuck in the sort of gates of the shifter, which was a little annoying. And then we have our heated seats and our rear power window. So one of the cornerstones of the 4Runner is that the rear window can completely roll down, which is fantastic. I think every SUV should have this capability, and I'm glad that the 4Runner does. That will weigh heavily into my final thoughts segment. But off to the right, we do have a cup holder, so we'll do a big friggin' bottle test, and as you'll notice, it actually says remove for larger cups on the lining. So I did, and because of that, the big friggin' bottle does in fact pass in the Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. Then we do have a center console with a 12-volt outlet in there, but nothing really to write home about. And then we have the seats. The seats are nice. They are finished in leather, which is a nice little touch that the TRD Pro gets. And I do have TRD stitched into the headrests, which again is a really nice touch. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're on the back of the 2023 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro, and a couple of things to note. First of all, knee room good, headroom good. I've had a lot of people in this car in the last couple of days. Not a single complaint. People actually really enjoy the back seats. In terms of amenities, I do have 2 vents and 2 USB chargers, which are in fact USB-C, so that contradicts what I said up front. That gets USB-A, this gets USB-C. Kind of interesting. Then I do have a center console as well, 2 cup holders that you could also remove the inserts of that are pretty big. And overall, nothing really too crazy. Now the 4Runner is only a 2-row vehicle. If you want a 3-row, you have to go up to the Sequoia, of which I have a review of that I'll link at the end of this one. However, where a 3rd row might be is the trunk and cargo space, which has an interesting little fold-out feature, so let's hop back there. All right, around the back of the 4Runner, and before we get in here, you can come down here, and when the key is in your pocket, it will roll up the rear window just by hitting this button. There we go, and you could also, of course, do the same thing, rolling it down. Try to get that all in one frame. There you go. So then, button under here. I don't get a power tailgate, which isn't the end of the world, but for $55,000, it might have been nice. Here's my camera equipment. Let me get this out of the way. And here we are back here. This is the outlet that you can control up front. I love that they give you a traditional wall outlet as well as a 12-volt outlet. So your plug-in or power needs will be met here in the back. We also have a giant JBL logo for the JBL speakers, and something I didn't notice until the final night, which is tonight, that I have this vehicle. The speakers are actually on the rear tailgate, so if you're working right here at a tailgating event, you have the big game on, you'll actually hear it right above you, which I think is a pretty cool design. Speaking of which, this is an optional pull-out sort of table. So pull this to the side and pull this out. And then you have a little bit of a sort of tailgate slash workstation. It says it can support 400 pounds, and I actually have sat on it and I didn't fall through. So that is more than what a lot of things could say. But anyway, pull it over here and push it back in. That's as far out as it goes. So not too far, but you know, not super close either. However, one more thing I want to show you with the cargo space is how these seats fold down. So come around here. In order to fold these seats down, you actually have to pull this string, and you see that part comes up, and then there's a button here, push it, sorry, hold on. You gotta do the headrest first. So headrest come down, then this, then they fold flat. The Toyota first aid kit going crazy. Of course, the other side will do that as well. So kind of interesting that you fold the bottom of the seat up, and then the rest of the seat goes up. Fold that up and you have no bottom. This cup holder likes to fall out, and then you could bring this back down. Boom, you have back seats once more. So tons of really cool packaging in the TRD Pro. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is finished in solar octane, which has been the absolute talk of the town the last couple of days. It is bright, it is large and in charge, and I really enjoy the color, although it's very hit or miss. My mom and my girlfriend's mom absolutely hate this color. I personally like it. I think it actually gives a rather modern look to this very dated four-wheel drive vehicle. I also like the black accents and whatnot, but this color is just a showstopper. So much so that when I'm driving past speed limit signs, they appear orange. And as you can see on the banister of my front staircase, even when the vehicle's parked outside on a sunny day, it's reflecting into my house. Even within the confines of four walls, you cannot escape the solar octane color. I really like what the TRD gets as well, with the knobby tires, the roof rack, the hood scoop that isn't functional. All of the sort of looks, this thing definitely plays the part, and it earned its nickname this last week as my Tonka truck. If you're unfamiliar, Tonka used to make, I think they still might make, these like little construction toys. I grew up with them. There was also a video game. That was pretty great. And so I nicknamed it my Tonka truck, and even my friends and mom started calling it my Tonka truck, which was pretty funny to see. But with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think, having driven around as my personal vehicle, the 2023 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro? Well, like I said at the top of this video, I requested this vehicle from Toyota because my close friend Alex was moving houses. And he said, hey, I need some help. And so I asked Toyota for their largest vehicle they had available. All of the Tundras had already been signed out to other journalists, so 4Runner it is. And while it actually was fantastic for helping him move, we fit a lot of stuff in the back of this 4Runner. It was very useful, very good. I wasn't particularly excited to have this. I think they're a little big. I'm not a huge Toyota fan. I knew it was going to get poor fuel economy. I knew it was going to be dated with technology and having to tell people, no, it's actually a 2023. I wasn't very excited about it. And when they dropped it off and I saw the color, I was extra not excited about it because I thought, well, I'm just going to look like a construction cone for the next couple of days. But then I drove it, and I drove it a little bit more and drove it a little bit more. And then I opened the sunroof and started enjoying it. And then I put down the rear window, started enjoying it a little bit more. Then I picked up my friends. We went and got some ice cream. We went and got some chicken. I took them out for snow cones. I turned up the music a little loud. Then it all started to make a little bit of sense. And then it started to make a lot of bit of sense. This car was fun to drive. I like being up high. I like having the capabilities of the four-wheel drive while never having to actually prove it. That's the most beautiful spot you can be in. Having the capabilities to do things without ever having to prove it. Because if you're ever given the chance to prove it and you don't come through, you're going to look like a wackadoo. So driving this around, people look at it and say, oh, it's got the roof rack, the knobby tires. I bet you that thing can conquer some mud. My girlfriend's little sister kept calling it so granola, which means adventurous and outdoorsy. And yet I never had to prove it to them. I never had to take it off-road, but it had that sort of ambiance about it. And so that, paired with the open air experience of the rear window down, made me really, really love this truck, or SUV, whatever you want to call it. With the rear window down, you get 99% of the experience of a Jeep Wrangler. You get the open air all around you. You get the sights, the smells, the feeling of having no top. But I still do have a top. I'm not going to have a fabric top flapping in the wind. Heaven forbid I go above 35 miles an hour like you do in a Wrangler. In 3 years' time, my roof isn't going to leak like it does in a Wrangler. And so this is kind of the best of both worlds. You get an open air, enjoyable experience without all the drawbacks of a rear removable roof. Now, of course, the Wrangler is going to have more outdoorsy feel, but not by enough to justify all of the drawbacks. And so, although I originally felt like I really wasn't going to care about this thing, I'm actually sad to see it go. I've enjoyed my time with it. It's just a fun vehicle. It's fun to drive around. It's fun to get your friends in. It's seriously very practical. Not only can it tow, but that fold-out table in the back, comfy seating for 4 or 5, rear-locking diff, 4-wheel drive, dual-zone climate, Apple CarPlay, JBL speakers. I don't know. For $55,000, I know $55,000 is still a huge number to wrap your head around, but I think you get a lot of bang for your buck at that number. If you want to go across the table to like Land Rover, you're going to be paying way more than that. So you know what? Outdated as it might be, this thing is all right. And there's a comfort in knowing that it's just going to work. This car isn't going to give you a headache. And although it is due for a refresh somewhat soon, if it follows in the footsteps of the Sequoia, Tacoma, and Tundra, it's going to be a hybrid. So if you want the last purely reliable, rugged SUV, may I present to you the Toyota 4Runner. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Toyota for sending me this vehicle for the week, as well as the Midwestern Automotive Media Association and everyone over at Drive Shop. You guys are rock stars and made this video possible. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.